That's
and
not,
you're
that's a
quiet.
threatening position.
Right. This is not. Here we are at sunset in the bush having
Yeah, it's hard not to
cocktails.
take sunset shots.
Having cocktails
Okay,
out in the bush, and there's elephants over there too that you can't see, but. This was our lodge where we stayed. It was called Mala Mala Lodge. And this is on our way to the airport as we're leaving.
Seeing lions, it's chilling.
Wow.
That's a beautiful shot.
So, but it was really a
good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the December 5th, 2017 meeting of Advisory Neighborhood Commission 6E. I'm Alexander M. Padro, the chair. Our secretary, Commissioner Brown, is out of town, so I will call the roll. ANC6E01, present. ANC6E02, absent. ANC6E03,
Present?
ANC6E04,
Present.
ANC6E05, absent. Commissioner Marriott unfortunately had a death in the family and is out of town. ANC6E06, ANC6E07. So we do have a quorum to conduct official business. Thank you very much. Just housekeeping notes, folks should please silence their phones and pagers or put them on vibrate. And if you need the bathrooms are located to the left as you leave the room from the door that you entered through. I call the Commission's attention to the draft agenda before you. And if there are no suggestions for changes, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
I motion to approve the agenda as printed.
It's been moved by Commissioner Jaffe and actually seconded by Commissioner Wiggins. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. As always, we turn the agenda first to representatives from the Metropolitan Police Department so that we can hear their reports and provide any input that we might have, and then get them back on the street so they can continue to keep us and the community at large safe. So I see one 3D representative here, so we'll start with 3D.
Okay, I said on your microphone. I'm Officer Berlin. I don't know if you guys remember me. I used to come here a lot, and then
Welcome back, Officer Berlin.
few-year hiatus, and now they decided in all their wisdom to send me back to you guys. So,
We're happy to have you.
so this is PSA 308. Anybody that's from another district that encompasses S Street to New York Avenue, and from the the west side of New Jersey to the east side of 9th Street, northwest. So the good news is, when we compare the last 30 days, which is ending today, from 11/5 to 12/5, crime is down significantly across the board, with the exception of robberies. We've had 5 robberies in the last 30 days in PSA 308, and we had 2 last year. None of them involved guns, so I guess if there's a silver lining, that's it, that they didn't involve guns. But the significant other crimes, such as assaults with deadly weapon, with guns, and other implements, are down significantly, as are sex abuse, theft from auto, arson, stolen autos, and theft from autos. The single biggest issue that we still have in PSA 308 is theft from autos. Although they're down, they're almost half of what they were last year at this time. I would suggest, and some of you maybe have heard me say this before in other meetings, that don't leave your valuables in the cars, even if it's a pack of cigarettes. Somebody may want to go in and try to take that, or they'll break into your car sometimes even if they don't say anything. But if you park your car close to your house where you can keep an eye on it, that's also suggested as well. And when you have guests come in from out of town, perhaps during the holiday season or in the summer, warn them, don't leave their luggage in view. And I wouldn't even suggest leaving it in the trunk, because we've had instances where people have broken into cars and they've hit the trunk latch and they've stolen items from the trunks as well. If you guys have any questions for me about things that are going on in PSA 308 specifically, things that you notice, things that you want to bring to our attention.
I have an odd question.
Sure.
I was in a meeting with Carl Racine, Attorney General Carl Racine, a couple of months ago at Kennedy.
Okay.
And he brought up, well, his panel brought up cases of human trafficking that took place like 3 years ago. Do we have that issue anymore in this area?
In PSA 307, which is a little west of us on 10th and 11th Street, historically that's been a hot spot. When you get towards New York Avenue, you get towards the southern end of the district, you'll see people, ladies of the night, walking out in the middle of the...
By that CVS.
Yes, up and down 10th Street, up and down 11th Street. From what I've gathered over the last few years, that's dissipated quite a bit. It's still a lot, there's activity by the hotels, and I think that's, people come in from out of town and, they provide a
I understand.
service or whatever is going on there, I don't know. But, that's sort of a magnet for that.
Okay, for that environment.
Yeah,
Okay, I was just
so-
curious.
When I first got here, like 4 or 5 years ago, it was really bad down
Yeah, I
there.
was surprised to
And they
hear
had
that.
Vice working on it and undercover, plainclothes people, running sting operations, for lack of a better phrase. But
Right.
as I said, that hasn't been. And I just want to bring one more thing to your attention, and unless you have any other questions. Anybody have any other questions?
I have one, but
Okay. This is a very, very bad time for robberies. The holiday season, starting with Thanksgiving and going all the way through New Year's, historically we've had a lot of robberies all over the city, but specifically, Columbia Heights area, if you're going up shopping by the Target, if you're by any retail areas, late at night when you're walking alone on New Jersey Avenue, at least from my experience, has been a bad spot if you're walking there with your headphones on. Just be cognizant of everything that's around you. If you've left a party at 2 in the morning and you're by yourself and you're walking on a dark street, keep your head on a swivel, because a lot of the robberies we have are crimes of opportunity. Somebody's alone, 2 or 3 teenagers may see you, drive by on bikes, and then come back, get you from behind, whatever. So just be aware of that, especially this time of year.
building off of what you're saying about the holidays, is there anything beyond common sense, or maybe explain that to some people, but, people leaving, traveling, with leaving their homes during the holidays, a lot of people leave town. Are there any main things you'd recommend to our constituents?
If you don't have an alarm, get one, because I'm glad you brought that burglary aspect up as well. We haven't had as many burglaries in 308 as we've had in the past. We used to have a ton of them, and primarily those occur either when somebody's at work and the house is vacated, or they go away for a few days. Somebody will case your house and they'll see you packing up, driving off into the sunset, and then a couple hours later they come in and break into a basement apartment or something of that nature. So you're going to get those during the holiday season, and invariably Monday morning we get the calls that when somebody gets home from Sunday night, Monday morning, they get home from a trip or whatever, that their house has been broken into. So if you don't have an alarm, please get an alarm.
And you don't have like a list, like if you're going, say, out of town for a week or two, that if you're doing your patrols, you just like keep an eye?
No, we don't have anything like that. We used to be able to, the alley behind, where the community church is? That alley behind the community church, I forget the name of that street. Sort of side, we used to get a ton of burglaries down in there. So you get through the back, through the alley, and so if you live on an alley, make sure you have an alarm, and if it's financially feasible for you guys to have cameras, because our detectives have caught burglars and robbers with the alley cameras. Motion sensing alley cameras are a great help to us, and also to you guys to at least be aware. You can look at your camera. If somebody's outside your house, casing your house, you can see them on your camera. If there's a live feed, then you call us and let us know. We've had people do that too as well. Any questions anybody have? Sir?
I apologize if you already mentioned this statistic. We walked in a few minutes late. Did you give a statistic on gunshots in the area?
I have just the crimes right here. Let me see if I can find that for you guys.
Because I think there's been, I know,
Sounds of gunshots, you mean?
Yeah, I
calls
mean,
when
I
people
was
call?
walking back from Safeway at one point, and there was gunshots down on 4th Street, which is where we live,
Mhm.
and I heard the bullets go by my head, so that's the closest, like, I've,
So where was this?
When was this?
on 4th Street.
When?
When was it?
This was several months ago,
Okay.
it was, and then I don't think there were any injuries from it, and I talked to a policeman after, and I don't think they found any suspects, but the reason I bring it up is I came primarily to inquire about the NEAR Act, and if anybody has any information on that, this might not be the opportunity, but.
I'm not familiar with that, but
The
I
NEAR
will,
Act-
next time when I come back, I'll have statistics on sound of gunshots calls as well. I can tell you from being on evenings and I get off at, 1:30, 2 in the morning, depending on the day, we haven't had as many. I mean, it used to be every other day, sometimes every day we'd have calls for sounds of gunshots. The crime in, knock on wood, the crime in 3D has gone down, and, in PSA 308, my sergeant just texted me before I came in here, he said the crime is down 30%, this year from last year in 308, so, and it's down significantly in the district-wide, so hopefully that trend will continue.
Well, I think the presence of those police officers in the cars in the neighborhood, across from Kennedy and Oak Street area, being consistently there. I mean, I live on 5th, so I see them there all the time. Matter of fact, even 5th Street has gotten really, really quiet in the past 3 months. I know why, but I'm thankful for the quietness.
Yeah.
The 4th Street area, that was a concern. A young lady got shot there and killed. I think they're still looking for the third person.
That was down
arrested
in 1D?
on 4th Street. Was that close to the?
We're at 4th and M, I know there's been a couple gunshots and whatnot in that area.
You said it was a
Second
couple.
Northwest Co-op?
We're having some
Yes,
issue, we
yes.
had an
That's for the
issue,
5th and
a few months ago where there was a little, for better, a little war going on between
Yeah.
Surson Quarter
Right,
and
right.
the 5th and N.
That's why my block is so quiet.
And that, it seemed like for like 2 or 3 weeks, there was exchanges in that area, and it was
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
contained in that one parking lot.
You're right.
well, now
You're right.
Sursum Quarter, I think all the families are out, which is what,
Is that what it was?
it was a bit of a turf war, and because Sursum Quarter was closing, and there were a few families that were trying to find where they were being placed, because that's gonna be developed, and there was some, I think there was more to it, but from what I've been told, there was a bit of a turf war in that term. And they
Well,
recover,
well,
I think, 3 firearms.
And understand, this doesn't mean that because it goes in peaks and valleys. I mean, there's
I understand.
there's some summers where it was very, very quiet, and other summers it was, it was a war zone down here. I mean, it's not too long ago, as a lot of you people have been here for a long time know, so. And the other thing, and I'll finish on this, is if you see something suspicious, don't feel like you're bothering us to call 911 and say, hey, I see this guy, he's back in the alley, he's looking through trash cans, he's peeking in windows, whatever, call. Don't ever be hesitant to call us. We're not that busy that we can't answer and try to mitigate things before they happen.
And one other specific, I mentioned this last month when the commander was here, because the mayor was at our meeting, N Street Park between 7th and 6th. Every day I walk to work past there and I see people dealing marijuana or other stuff. You can smell it profusely. I will sometimes see a car parked there, but they don't actually get out. I don't know if you're not trying to approach it for a reason or what the reasoning behind there is, but that's definitely something that needs more attention.
Okay. All right.
And it's the same people, I recognize the same cars,
Yeah,
same
that's
minutes.
their hangout point, N Street.
If they're gonna hang out there and not do drugs, that's fine, but
Sometimes they hang out there and not do drugs, and other times, we
Sometimes they do other
try to
things.
clear the area out. And if you see something going on, just call and say, hey, I saw somebody wearing a blue sweatshirt, leaning into a car, exchanging money with somebody else, and they'll dispatch an officer there to investigate it or look into it for you. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do we have anyone from 1D? Anyone from 5D? All right. So moving on to our first case of the evening, 19 I Street Northwest. This is a new ABC license application for Gonzaga. We have the representatives here. Let's come forward.
So Commissioners, hello. My name is Matt Menora. I'm from the law firm of Malleus and O'Brien, and we are ABC counsel for Gonzaga College High School. I'm joined by Steve Neal, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Gonzaga College High School. As Commissioner Padro explained, we're looking for a Class CT tavern license for the high school. It is not to set up a permanent bar in the high school, so do not fret about that. The situation is the high school does occasional fundraisers throughout the year and faculty events, wherein they're required to get a one-day alcoholic beverage license, but those can only be issued in the name of individuals, which puts personal liability on the person who's signing the actual license application. So if something happens afterwards, the lawsuit would go directly to that person, whereas now the school is trying to get the permanent ABC license in their name so they could put any sort of liability on the school itself and take it off of that of the employee who has to sign the ABC license application. The hours are from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m., and there's entertainment from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. Again, these are for occasional events. There'll be no new additional events as a result of this license. It'll be the same ones they have been doing, and it's strictly for the interior of the premises. And obviously, all attendees will be 21 or older to be drinking. If you have any other questions, we'll be happy to address them as well.
Yeah. Is this a one-day event?
No, this is in lieu of having to get one-day licenses on a case-by-case basis. The school will have a permanent ABC license to use for these occasional events, for fundraising events and faculty events, things of that nature.
So how many times y'all asked the board, for ABC license?
In the past, it's been
Right now there are 3,
Really?
and they're the same every year. Some, including one that's a pre-Thanksgiving alumni event that's been going on for 122 years. So they're the same events that we've always been doing, but we've always been applying for the one day. And again, individual employees have to apply for that license in their name, as opposed to being able to apply on behalf of the organization. So it's really to make sure that the application is in the school's name and not for an individual employee's name.
I live right behind Gonzaga, and that's my single member district. And I was wondering how y'all do that, when y'all get y'all license, do y'all carry it over through the year?
Each time we have to apply for a new one day, correct.
How common is it if a high school is looking for a liquor license?
Yeah, it's a little
Yeah,
unusual.
it's definitely the first one we've handled for certain, but like I said, given the situation, it's really just to nothing's changing from what they've been doing. It's just to remove the need to do the one-day licenses in the names of individuals to shift any potential for liability from DC Dram Shop, like alcohol liability, to the school itself versus the individual employee that would have to sign the application.
Questions from members of the commission? Questions from members of the audience?
I have one.
Yes.
What type of alcohol beverage will you be serving, have they been serving? Is it beer, wine, or what?
Just beer and wine is typically been served at these events.
So this application is for a location in Commissioner Rogers' single member district. Commissioner Rogers, did you want to make a motion?
I make a motion, ANC6E support Class C tavern ABC license and communicate that support to Apple.
The friendly amendment specifically that it's the application of the president and directors of Gonzaga College trading as Gonzaga College High School. Is that acceptable?
Yes, it is.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 One nay.
One nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes. That's 4-1-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
The correspondence out.
Appreciate it.
Oh, I've got it. Okay, thank you.
Next, we have a presentation from DC Water. Commissioner Marriott, who unfortunately is not here this evening, had requested a presentation because there have been a number of water main breaks in his single-member district, and there have been concerns expressed by his constituents about how DC Water handles these issues and how they go about planning for trying to prevent them from happening again. So, welcome.
Thank you. So hello everyone, my name is Emmanuel Briggs. I'm the manager of community outreach in DC Water's Office of External Affairs. And this is Ms. Marley Franzen, she's our manager of water distribution. As Chairperson Padra mentioned, Commissioner Marriott reached out to us following the water main break at 555 Mass Avenue on November 20th. There were lots of questions that he received and probably other commissioners. And so he asked us to come out to address those questions. There were 3 specific ones that he gave us. So Marley has prepared some responses to those, or also here to address other questions that they may come up. So I'll hand things over to Marley.
Hi, again, my name is Marley Franzen. I just wanted to take a moment, just a half a moment, to tell a little bit about myself. I've been an engineer for 25 years and 20 years working in utilities. My husband's retired military, moved all around the country. This is DC Water is the 4th utility I've worked at. And I just want to tell you, because I don't know if you hear this often, but it's truly an honor to serve the nation's capital. And I want you to know I'm thrilled to work in the district, and I know the guys have big hearts and they really want to serve well. Let me go to the 3 questions. I have them here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Sorry about this. Okay. So the first question was, why did the water main break twice in an 8-day period? So the first thing we do is look at the age of the pipe. Does anyone want to take a guess how old this pipe was?
It's 20 years old.
You think it was 20?
120.
Yes, it was,
Oh.
120. It was almost 120. It was built in 1898. And, you know, there's just been a ton of different research, but it's an old pipe. I mean, if you think of anything in your house or whatever, if you had anything 120 years old, you would probably be replacing it. What I wanted to let you know is we have an active CIP program, and the guys, the field staff, again, I've worked at 4 utilities, and the field staff here do a great job of recording data. Sometimes, you know, getting field personnel to get data is like pulling teeth, but these guys are just amazing about recording. We take pictures, and so this data of the 2 breaks is sent to our engineering department, and then they take all the scores of all the breaks around the district, and then they weight which breaks, which mains they want to do. Now, there are some concerns that are weighted a little higher. For example, water quality. If it's a water quality concern, they try to address that, maybe like discolored water when you're talking about that. Operations, if we know of areas that repeatedly break, we can kind of flag those. So we have flagged that to the engineering department. We've let them know that we've had the 2 breaks in 8 days, because sometimes that detail may get lost in all the data that's collected. But I guess to answer the question, I don't know specifically why it broke, but I suspect it's because it was an old pipe.
Would that be because they fixed the aspect of the old pipe that broke the first time, maybe that fixed it and stay?
No, it was a different location.
Oh, okay, it just
was
was
different.
luck. Probably
And-
that they were messing with it, that it was so old that the changes.
And there were vibrations probably due to compaction. You have to compact so you can drive or walk or whatever. So, I mean, and pipes are designed to withstand, I believe, 250 PSI, but over time, you know, I don't know how much research there is on this specific pipe. You know, it's cast iron, but, you know, how it was made. There's also a lot of research that talks about the installation practices, and so who knows
did
what the
120
bedding
years ago.
was. Yeah, 120 years ago. So, but one thing I can tell you, we do actively look at, one of the industry standards is how many breaks there are per 100 miles per what we call pressure zones, and then just how many breaks a year we're having. The industry has a standard. We've been going down the last 3 years. So even though we did have these 2 breaks, there's a whole team of us actively looking to make little tweaks to try to see if we can reduce the number of main breaks, plus all the pipe replacement. It doesn't hurt.
Question.
Sure.
So when you build new buildings, when
Yeah.
you tap into the mains from the new buildings of water, sometimes they cause the mains
Mains to what?
to weaken when you drill into them and tap into them. And we got a lot of new buildings in DC tap into old water systems.
Yeah, you know, I have to be honest. I focus a lot on maintenance, and so I don't know all of the ins and outs with the development, but a lot of times in my own experience, not here at DC Water, but in general, these new developments may require a new main just for fire flow reasons, or for just other purposes. So I don't want to speak to something I don't know specifically about in DC, but I think if there's a concern, they would address it or find an engineering solution to it though.
Do y'all have anything, do y'all have anything to do with the project on Rhode Island Avenue?
Oh, Clean Rivers?
Yes.
I only know when they call and they tell me there's a fire hydrant in the way and how can we relocate it. But so that's all, I haven't been highly involved in that specific project. But I drive through that intersection. I actually work, I think of the big building on Bryant Street, that's where my office is at. So I drive through that intersection 6th
They were
and
here a
11th.
few meetings ago to talk about updates for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I met with, one of the directors, and he told me about it.
It's just when it impacts the distribution system, they will call to say, how can we work through this issue, so. The second question was, why did it take responders more than 3 hours to begin work on the main break on November 20th? I understand there was another main break at roughly the same time. However, 2 main breaks in a large city should not be an unanticipated event. Why isn't there enough staffing to handle in a timely fashion? So again, we collect a lot of data, and so in this case, just to give you a little bit of information, it looked like the call, I'm going to say roughly, came in, and we tried to respond within 45 minutes. So they responded maybe around that time, maybe a little bit over. And it takes some time. You want to isolate it. You want to know the main can be isolated, because if this is a pipe and there's a valve here and a valve here, we have aging infrastructure, and especially these valves. So they can't just assume that they'll be able to shut it off here and here. And they want to make sure when it's this, it's a big break, that they can isolate it before they take a crew and move them from another location to the repair site. So does that make sense to everybody, what I'm saying? Okay. So they had it, it took about an hour to figure out, to make sure it was isolated. And then what happens is we notify a crew. In this case, because of the time that it came in, we had our contractor come out versus DC Water staff. And the contract says you have 2 hours to respond. And you may say, well, why 2 hours? Like, why isn't it a half hour? And part of it is what happens in parallel is that misutilities are called, and they have to mark the lines. And they also have some time to take to do that. And it was also rush hour. It's just a busy time. So while it does seem like a long time, the process is designed to kind of, instead of doing things like in series, getting this utility and then calling the crew, the contractor is calling this utility and mobilizing their staff and getting their heavy equipment on site. So we do have procedures in place, like a call structure for resources, because we get really busy, usually in January and February, when the temperatures, when we're talking about main breaks, temperature, especially really, really cold ambient temperature, can cause a lot of main breaks. We have our staff, we have an on-call contractor, we have another on-call contractor, and then we have some more people. So in the event, usually one day a year, we get a lot of breaks, and we work with the whole team to make sure we respond in an appropriate manner. But that's why it took 3 hours. So in the couple of days immediately following the break, the water has an off color, slightly rusty, and smell, and comes out in a sputtering matter. Why is that? Is the water safe to drink during this period? So one of my former jobs, I did water quality, but again, I focus a lot on maintenance. So I am not going to lie, I talked to our water quality expert, so I wanted to make sure. But what she responded was, water sputtering is caused by pockets of air in the pipes, which often form during water pipe maintenance. The sputtering and other pressure changes can knock the pipe scale inside the wall loose and mobilize sediment in the pipes. People often observe rusty water following water system maintenance. And I used to say that Normally your water flows, there's not a lot of flow in the system because it's really sized for fire flow. And so when there's a big break, it's the effect of turning on a blender. So all that scale, will go into solution, and that's where you see the iron, the rusty water. If you ever have rusty water, how many of you guys have ever just had rusty water in your home, just out of curiosity? That's good. Oh, I also have two. I want to tell you, it's not DC water. I live in Arlington. I've had rusty water 3 times. I always say twice I was brushing my teeth. So I have consumed rusty water. When you observe rusty water, run your cold water for 15 minutes. It should be clear. Do not run the hot water until the cold water is clear. Although the rust is mostly iron complexes, she recommended waiting until the water is clear before using for drinking and cooking. And I will tell you, again, DC water is very data driven. So if you have discolored water, please call and let us know, because again, it'll go through the CIP, that data point. If there are a lot of discolored water calls, they can try and target that area for main replacement. They'll replace the unlined cast iron with what we call ductile iron pipe that has cement lining so that you don't have that discoloration. So anyway, I don't know if any of you have any other questions. Happy to.
Any questions about water main breaks? Yes, ma'am.
I have one comment. I don't know how I managed to get on this alert for DC water, but I'm on the alert and I'm constantly seeing the water main break somewhere in the city, not just, you talking about area, but all over.
Yeah. So the first year, I started here 3 years ago. I worked 8.5 years in Arlington, and I came over here 3 years ago. And it was right at the beginning of main break season, and in that first February, it was really, really cold. I want to say that year we had over 400 breaks. Last year, and it's been going down every year, but we generally have 1 or 2 breaks every other day. I will say we have screens, so we kind of communicate between departments. So we all know the pattern enough that if, for example, I see more than 3 breaks in one day, that's unusual. And so we'll go and take them. But not all of the breaks, one other comment, not all of the breaks are like the splits that were in Massachusetts Avenue. A lot of them are joint leaks. So they're coming up and they may not be doing a ton of damage, but the joint has failed. And so they have a special clamp. They'll dig down and they'll put, it looks like 2 thin circles and bolts to try and bring the joint back together. And so some of the repairs are like that, where they don't necessarily have to cut the pipe. Go ahead.
What percentage of the pipes in the district are as old as you mentioned, about 50 years old?
I don't, Emmanuel may have that.
So we just know the average, and the average or the median is 80 years. So, I mean, the pipes are still fairly old. We are replacing them about 1% every year, so that's what we're doing.